So I'm here with Audrey Bell, and we're just going to talk to you, Audrey, about some of your memories, and you're going to bring the past alive for us. Now, you were telling me 1933 is the first date you remember writing down.
Yes, I remember, I suppose I would have been about 6 or so, and I was going to Moneymore school, and that was the first date that I learned to write down, 19 and 3. I learned to put the 3 down. But I remember way before that, maybe Jubilee Day,
Uh-huh.
and I remember when George V died. George V now, not George VI.
Yes.
Uh, and then after that was Coronation Day, and I remember being in the fancy dress parade, and somebody dressed me up and pushed me out, and I wasn't a bit happy with the thing. My brother went as Charlie Chaplin, and he had my father's boots on the wrong feet, and a hard hat, and he had another man with him, and had a donkey, and had the greatest crack with this crowd, and I wasn't doing much. But
Where was this?
that would have been 1936. But then 1937, 38, I remember walking to school. It was over a mile. We had to walk. We still had no bicycles. And, well, then on the way, we had to ride sharp in the morning to get there on time. And then coming home, we would dally along the road and talk to the roadman. And, they used to maintain the footpath for 1 mile outside the village. And there would always be a roadman cleaning and fixing the place. And I remember one house we come to, and the geese was on the road. Never could get past them because the gander would come hissing at us, and we had to stand and wait for an adult to come and get us past that. One day a week we would have to hurry home because we were allowed to go to the neighbour's house to hear. There was a program on. We didn't have a radio, wireless they called it. We didn't have a radio at that time, and there was a play on called Dick Barton's Special Agent.
Yes.
And his sidekick was white, sunny white, or some snowy white. And they always finished it exciting, but then you had to wait till the following week to hear what happened. But then we eventually got a radio, and it went on batteries. 2 batteries we had, and that was my father's job. He had to go and change the battery every week on the bicycle. He had to go take the battery on the bicycle and get it changed. So, and then that was 37, 38, 39. Then continually they would be listening to the news about, it was all about Germany and that sort of stuff. Well, I needn't tell you all that because you know all that about Germany invading
Poland.
Poland, and our Prime Minister kept going forward,
Chamberlain,
trying to make
yes,
some arrangements. And they had an arrangement that if Germany didn't withdraw by a certain date, then Britain would have to join in. And the cut-off date was the 3rd of September 1939. And I remember it was a Sunday, and of course no word came from Germany. So we went to First Moneymore Church.
Yes.
I remember it being announced from the pulpit that the first time I heard that famous line, I have to tell you now that no such correspondence has been received. Consequently, we are at war, or words to that effect, And it was a miserable old September day, and there was a flash of lightning and thunder, and it poured right at everybody. It was really quite dramatic,
Yeah.
And then I suppose the people didn't quite know what they were to do. The thing is, we were so far away from the trouble that we weren't in any danger. But at the same time, we had to go along with all those new regulations and stuff that were introduced. We had to get what is it called, an identity card and coupon books. And we were all issued with gas masks. It was the worst of all. I remember some person coming to the school to instruct us how to wear the mask. Put your chin in first. Pull the thing. You'd be more frightened of the
gas mask and the gas.
But there was all sorts organisations. There was a group called the LDV, Local Defence Volunteers. They were like a home guard thing.
Yes.
But you know the Irish, no matter what sort of a predicament they're in, they always have a sense of humour. Like LDV, they call them the Look, Duck and Vanish. And there was a whole lot of talk about air raid shelters.
Yes.
But I don't think there was any around Moneymore. But my father built one.
Right.
Or I shouldn't say built, he dug one down into the ground. The roof was at the ground level, and my mother wouldn't go to it. I don't know what happened. The badgers probably took it over. But I remember hearing the siren in Cookstown. I heard it all over the place. When there was danger, there was this wailing noise, and then when it was all cleared, the continual tone. But what was happening? Then what happened, I remember that the
Soldiers.
man had to come out of France.
Right.
Our
Dunkirk.
radio was on one day, and at about 12 o'clock in the day, lovely summer day, because I think our hall door was open. And my father had come in to listen to the news. And these two men were coming up the Moneymore Road on bicycles, and I suppose they realised that the news was on. They threw the bikes in the ditch, they run up our path, and stood in the hall, and they're listening. And it was all about the British soldiers being evacuated,
Dunkirk.
rescued off the coast of France or something.
Yeah, from
all
Dunkirk.
About small boats. And I'm sure we didn't hear about that for days after, but that's what was on at that particular time. And I remember one man, when he was leaving the house, he turned around and he says to my mother, "I doubt we're in the finals, ma'am." Meaning that there was just ourselves against Germany. So then, I suppose it was tense enough time. And it was right away then after that the British soldiers arrived. And they were billeted all around Moneymore, any places where there was room, assembly rooms maybe, no. Anyway, the Masonic Hall and Courthouse. And we got to know a couple of them, because what happened was two English boys stationed in the Masonic Hall in Moneymore. But on the off duty, they come out the Moneymore Road to explore the countryside. And when they come along past our place, my mother was out in the field feeding the hens. It was flea range in those days, hen houses out all over the place. And these two English soldiers stood up on the ditch and they shouted over at her to see if they could buy some eggs. So, of course, to get the eggs, they had to come around to the back door. And I remember giggling because my mother had nothing to put them in, and she put them in a brown paper bag. So I don't know if they ever got home safe. But as well as getting the eggs, they got an invitation to come out to tea the following Sunday. This was part of the war effort, you see, entertaining the troops. And they came out on the Sunday, and then they came the following Sunday, and then they came regularly through the week and helped with the farming. And I remember them making hay and all that. So, and there was always some excitement, army lorries on manoeuvres and stuff. And then the next bit was the Americans arrived, and they were mostly up on Spring Hill. And there was also some of them out of the Desert Martin Road. You know where there's
Hartley's
huts? I think they're still there.
Yeah.
Well, some of the Americans were out there, and the American uniform was nice, fine cloth as compared to the khaki English.
Yeah.
And we thought they were very slick. They are the Americans. And I remember seeing Americans practicing baseball on the main street in Moneymore.
Right.
There was hardly any traffic, But that was a great time. Everything was so exciting. And the BBC, I think, probably were trying to keep up morale. And they would be good programs like Workers' Playtime and all like that. And then we were all singing that all those war songs. We were going
Yes.
to hang out watching on the Seafree Lane and all that. And we had Violin singing for us.
We'll
And
meet
not to
again.
mention Churchill, the speeches. We will
Yeah.
fight them on the beaches. And this all went on. And it's a terrible thing to say, but I think we enjoyed it. You know, we didn't really know what was going on in Europe.
Mhm.
You know, I suppose the higher up in
Yeah.
you, but we didn't know. We were just having good crack with the whole thing.
Yes.
On.
Well-
And then, where were we now? Then 1944, early 44, they left, the whole left, up sticks and away. And we didn't know it, but I suppose they were be assembling along the coast,
For D-Day.
getting ready for D-Day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's.
And when the war ended, what memory do you have? What exciting thing happened out here
Oh
in
my goodness.
Moneymore?
Oddly enough, I can't remember. I'm sure there was celebrations or something in Moneymore, but I don't remember that. I remember being out at home with a wee black radio and listening to the crowds cheering. And I'm sure somebody was doing a running commentary, whoever. But when you didn't know the layout, you'd never been to London, or you didn't know the layout. It's very
Yes.
hard to follow the thing. But all I remember is the crowd cheering and cheering and shouting, "Winnie, Winnie, Winnie!" This is Winston Churchill.
Yes.
But what I do remember, what you asked me, I remember seeing a Spitfire doing a victory roll. I was out in the field out at the back of our house, and this wee plane, lovely open sky, and this plane went up and up. And I don't know what they do. Did they turn off the
They turn.
off the machine or
No,
something?
no, they do a
They
victory
come
roll.
down, swirl around, and sweep down and then up again. I thought he's going to crash, the man. And then I realised only some young pilot maybe with the excitement of the whole thing.
Then after the war,
After the war, then we had to go back to 1939 and try to catch up with where we left off. We had all during the war we had no electric.
Uh-huh.
With no water main, with certainly no telephone or television or anything. But I remember the men come, I don't know where they came from, the electricians. They had to come so far that they couldn't travel, so they stayed overnight at our house. I had to give up my bedroom for them. Some man came and they had to wire the house and the yard and the wires and everything. And they were outside putting up poles out in the they would have put a pole in the middle of your garden if you hadn't had it. But everybody was so eager to have it that they didn't worry. So then when we got the electric and we were able to have a few appliances. No washing machine at that stage because the water wasn't out the main road. It didn't come till 1950s sometimes before the water came. And then when we got the water in, then we could go ahead with everything. And then there's the whole spree of getting the drinking troughs for the cows. And the old farmers couldn't understand how the cows would know to drink themselves. But the farmers, you know, we looked at them, they had a lot to cope with because my father had been used with horses up to there, and now he had all this new machinery, like an older man he was. And I remember him trying to thread a binder, like it's difficult jobs to get to know, and so they had a lot to deal with, and but managed all right, I suppose. So
very good.
where are we now?
Well, then whenever you got into the young farmers and then you did a wee bit of acting, where did that take you?
Oh, I joined the young farmers, and there was a usual round of cattle judging competition and round table quizzes, and none of which I had any good at. But there's always some bright spark that thinks it's a good idea to put on a play.
Yes.
And I was roped into that, and I still remember sheer terror of going out there on the platform, probably forget your lines, you know. But I must have got through it somewhere because next year they play again, and it was somewhere along there that, how did they say it? I got hooked. I got hooked on the acting business.
Yes.
So much so that whenever I got myself a job and a place to stay in Belfast, the only bit of socialising I would have done, I joined a drama group.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, I got to be in several plays. And it was whenever I was in a play with James Young that I met people from the BBC. One night during the run of that play that was in with James Young, great excitement backstage. It appeared there's some VIPs out front, you see. And it turned out it was this man, Tony Guthrie, Sir Tyrone Guthrie. He was a international producer director, very influential man in the theatre world. And he was over on holidays. He had been Irish originally, but he was in Canada. And he was over on holidays and contacted the two producers in the BBC. And they brought him to see the local talent. It was James Young really that coming to see.
Yeah.
But whenever the whole thing was over, they came around backstage and were all introduced. And they didn't say anything to me now, but after they left, one of the men from the group theatre said to me, "You'll be able to get some work up there. They mentioned your name." I think what it was, the group of actors that they had to work with were all maybe local Belfast crowd. And when they heard this one with a big Middle Ulster accent, they thought we could use a bit of that, you see.
Yeah.
So I went through did
Country cousin.
audition. I'll not tell you about the audition. It was the worst ever was, but I eventually got a letter to say yes, that the audition was successful, and that I remember what I said, that my name had been added to the list of available artists.
Right.
And then it was no time at all till I started getting to work. Sam Bell, that's a name maybe you remember.
Yeah.
He was the first one to give me any work. And he was doing a series of things called Country Profile. A half-hour show just went out locally, you know. And I was in several of those. And then James McGeehan, that was the drama producer, he did the plays, the set plays like Boyd's Shop and Passing Day and all that stuff. He did that, and he started to give me work. And sometimes with him, we would be in Saturday night theatre, and it was big stuff, you see, because I think that it went out to all the regions, London,
Right.
and everybody took it. And whenever we were on, we had to straighten out our accents and put it in all earrings so that they know what we were saying. Because everybody was taking it. It went to England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
The McCooeys. How did I get into the McCooeys?
Oh, right, then I got a contract for something called the McCooeys, and it said a series in 6 episodes. And I thought it was great because I had been in one before with 6 episodes, and it had gone very well. So I was delighted until I got the script. When I got the script, I read it through and I knew right away what way I was going to have to play this woman, you know.
You weren't the love interest.
Country people would say she was really tackling. And when you're that age, I was maybe 21, 22. You know, you want to be the nice one, you know.
Yeah.
The love interest, maybe. I no such luck. Anyway, I went down the very first episode, and it was all about this McCooey family in Belfast, and they had this country cousin that came up and down now and again. And on this particular occasion, she was going with a hen to Balmoral's show, and she called in with her relatives to fix her hat and get a cup of tea, as you do. And it went very well. And then I think it came out. It started as 6 episodes. What happened was, at about the 4th or 5th episode, I think, one of the actresses, Mina Doran, that played Maggie McCooey, she was ill and had to go to the hospital. So Sam Denton, the producer, he was stuck. He could either get another actress to play the part, or maybe get a different script or something. He rang Joe Tumbledon, told him the problem, And Joe says, leave it to me, I'll sort it for you. And inside 24 hours, Joe Tumblety had rewritten the script, wrote Maggie out of it, and the episode went ahead as usual. But because he had had to rewrite it, he had lost his storyline, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so he had to write 7 or 8 more episodes. And by the time the 7th or 8th episode was going out, people were beginning to say, did you hear the McCooeys?
Yeah.
So then it took, I remember the producer coming in the studio and said, make yourselves available now because I think this thing's going to run. And so it did run for 7 years. I grew old. And then, well, then Joe Tumblety was in an accident. And Joe was quite ill at that time. And at the end of the scripts dried up and it had to come off. Probably time to come off anyway, you know. But after that, then there was another program called the McCooeys, not the Lallies, Mrs. Lally's Lodgers, and I was in it as well. And it was about this woman who kept a boarding house, and I was one of the lodgers. And as far as I remember of it, I seem to remember a lot of house parties in it where all the lodgers would gather up in Mrs. Lally's parlour, and there would be a sing-along. And the BBC got this old battered old piano out of tune, you know, and they got Havelock Nelson to play for us. It was, I sang, it must have been deadly, I don't remember. Anyway, it ran for several years as well, and then we're coming up to the 60s now. And after that came off, I was offered something else, but I thought, no, I've done enough of that. I want to do something different now. So I enrolled in nursing school in Barnet General Hospital, just outside London. And you talk about a culture shock. I didn't know what it would be. But I was seeing a whole different side to life, and London was out there to be explored, and I managed well. And I got through the 3 years, I got qualified. And then I was just working in England, you know, until I met some nurses that had come back from America, and they were in such glee about the American lifestyle and all this. And they had come home because their green card had run out. They couldn't get a working permit. But in 67.
67. Very good.
So So then that started into the whole. It went very well. The American scene. I was met at the Logan Airport with a lady from a representative from the hospital. She got me in a cab, and already she's handing out these leaflets, a map of Boston, and the best place to shop, and where the bad areas are. Like a fact sheet
Yeah.
she had. And she brought me to this apartment, and she says, you can have this apartment now for a month, and then you'll have to find your own place. So then that was it. America whole scene started off with me, and I got a place to stay. And then we used to take the Greyhound bus and go down to see New York, the Big Apple. And I always had this idea that I wanted to go to New York. And then one weekend, I got a list of hospitals in the New York area, and I went like prospecting, just looking at the hospital in the area, see if it was a good area to see. And there was this one place that I thought I liked, and I went back to the hotel, and it was in my hotel room, and I had a New York Times. I opened the New York Times, and here the hospital, the very hospital that I was thinking about, had ads then looking for nursing staff, and a telephone number and all. So I was in a hotel room and felt very safe, and I thought, I'll ring them up, and if it goes all wrong, it doesn't matter. So I rang the number, and it was some lady answered me, and I told her what it was all about. She says, where are you? She says, get in a cab and come over. And I went out and got into a New York taxi, they're just flying in the, and inside 5-10 minutes I had a job. So then I had to go back up home to Boston and tell them I was leaving, and I moved down to New York, and then that was the beginning of I was staying in New York for 12 years. And I was only went out for a 6 months holiday. But I used to come home here every August. I would come because it got so hot in August. Like in Boston, it's hot and humid, but even New York it's worse, And when you get to August, it's that humid. I was just dying to get home to get that lovely Irish rain. And I used to come for a long time, and then I had my eye on. I was getting a few years on me. You see, I was having my eye on early retirement. So when I come early retirement, I took my early retirement in America, and I got a wee pension from them, and came back here and applied to Marifalta, and I worked 5 years in the Mid-Ulster until I was 60, and I got retired. I thought I was going to live and grow old gracefully. Instead of that, I grew old disgracefully.
Audrey, on behalf of Moneymore Memories, thank you for sharing this with us, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the.
As I say, thanks for having me.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for all you've done. Okay. That's lovely. Thank you very much indeed, Audrey.
Oh, you're welcome.
So the famous Audrey Bell.